course, back to school. We're talking about back to school, and this year was a little different for the Lara family, for one, because, and many teachers, because Terra Blanca was closed. So they combined a lot of the Terra Blanca teachers with West Central. Didn't know how that was going to play out. So, of course, after the first day of school, started asking questions. How was it? How did you like it? And then, she broke down in tears. And I was like, honey, what's wrong? I was like, it's the first day of school. It's like the kids are mean to me. They pick on me. They, just fearful. I don't want to go back. Fearful of going back. And as her, the tears came rolling down, I held her and I was like, sweetheart, honey, God has this. If you believe in God, you'll be good. But you have to go back because you're the teacher. Okay? Bella was fine. But you have to understand too, is if you a husband of a teacher, they cry. Okay? We have a ritual, is the first day after school we go to McDonald's and everything is supersized. There was even one year, she's telling stories and she starts laughing and then a tear came out and then me and Caleb look at each other, we're like, what's going on? I was like, I think she's laughing and crying at the same time. It is possible. But today we're going to be talking about fear. Fear. What is fear? What's the purpose of fear? There's two types of fear that we're going to be talking about. One is going to be the commanded fear. This is the commanded fear when God says, fear the Lord. This is the healthy fear. This is the fear that keeps you from consequences of disobedience. You're supposed to do certain things, so in order to be wise, you have to do something, and you have to do that out of fear of God. And fear is more of this is kind of a respect. You do it because you respect Him, the fear of God. Today we're going to be talking about a different fear, and I'm going to show you a picture here. This is at Disney World, Bella on a roller coaster. I don't know if you can see her face. It's real light, but she went on one of the biggest roller coasters there at Disney World, and this is the type of fear that paralyzes you. Have you ever been so scared that you just can't even move? We're going to be talking about the forbidden fear. The fear that harms us, a fear that the devil tries to put in our hearts, that tries to attack us with. This is the same kind of fear that you won't end the relationship because you're fearful. The relationship is unhealthy, but yet you don't want to end it because you're afraid. You're scared. And on the opposite coin of that, this is the same type of fear, is that you won't start a new relationship. You won't reach out and get new friends. Why? Because your heart's been broken so many times. And then you have built a wall around your heart because you're just scared that the next person is going to hurt you. The next person that's going to hurt you. And this is the type of fear that leads to disobedience and results in consequences. The forbidden fear. This also results in you losing blessings. You getting robbed in blessings. So this is one of the Satan's tools that he uses, is that Satan uses fear. That way we won't do God's will. The first thing with fear is that sometimes when you're so scared of something, sometimes that just comes true. I have a quick story on that part where I just became the youth leader many, many years ago. And I was teaching a Bible study for the first time as a youth leader. And I had to study. We used to do the little nursery, and it was really easy. But these were teenagers, and there were 6 of them. So I had the study ready, and I did the study all week. I even woke up at 6 the next, Sunday morning, and I went over it again. Had the highlighter, had notes. I got this. I'm not going to mess up. I'm not going to mess up. I kept double-checking myself, repeating everything. Everything was great. So we get in. There's about 6 kids. And I'm like, okay, can y'all turn those books to the book of Psalms? And of course, nobody told me this. My wife didn't tell me until like after the 3rd week, whenever we're book of Psalms in Psalms, for 3 weeks. I don't know why they have the P there. Why? It's useless. Just take it out. But Sometimes you have fear so much that we actually make it come true because we worry about it so much, so much. You're in a new friendship and you're like, they're going to hurt me, they're going to hurt me. And you're just waiting and you're just waiting and you're just waiting for that. Unhealthy fear, forbidden fear, the fear that cripples us. Also, if the devil can strike fear in you, it's also contagious. Jeremy Camp got to play with Faith a couple weeks ago. And she was sitting by me, and then, I prayed with her, and they kept playing. And, I look at her, and I was like, are you nervous? No. It's like, girl, you're not nervous? No, I'm okay. It's like, I would be terrified. Look, that's Jeremy Camp. Can you believe this? You're about to, we're going to take pictures, and you're playing with him. Do you know who he is? Like, yes, I know who he is. I was like, I'm nervous for you. I'm fearful for you. She's like, Teresa, tell him. Because she started getting what? Nervous and fearful. It's contagious. It's contagious, and the devil knows that. So if he can strike fear in your heart, he's also going to let it spread. He knows that. So fear is contagious. And also fear is this also too, is that it's going to rob you of blessings. We just passed the offering plate. How many of y'all actually tried to look up your bank account before you made the tithe? How many of us kind of ran through calculations? Well, I got this bill coming up. I got this bill. So-and-so has this. And then you based your check based on what? On what you can see, on what you have. Because you're afraid to give what God commands you to do. So the question is, how many blessings did we miss? How many blessings did you miss? Just because of fear. Fear of finances. And speaking of finances too, you have to realize too is that the devil knows that God cannot bless you if you're not obedient. God will bless you being obedient, and if he can strike fear in you and cause you to be disobedient, he knows God won't bless you. He knows God can't bless you because that's his word. Now, this is the same fear that tells you can't sing. So you tell yourself that, no, I'm fearful for singing out loud. I'm fearful for raising my hands. Because the devil knows if he can get you not to sing and he can sing to God, guess who's going to sing? The rocks will. The trees will cry out. Also this, even singing, and I'm telling you, as a father, this is how generational curses are broken. Your kids look up to you, and they see you in worship. Okay? I've had a very hard time during worship, for one, because I never saw my dad worship. So guess what I thought? I'm supposed to do the same. But it takes somebody to break that generational curse. You as a father, if you can proudly state and raise your hands and sing for Christ, sing for Jesus, you're setting an example for your children as a father, as head of the household. But a lot of us don't. Why? Because of fear. Because of fear. 51% of us don't share Christ because of fear. And you can just think, there's a rhetorical question. When was the last time you shared Christ with somebody? And then think about this. When was the last time you had an opportunity to share Christ, but you did not? What was the reasoning that stopped you? 51% of us don't share Christ because of fear. And there is good news. Fear, God has forbidden this type of fear. There's no place for it if you're a Christian. 2 Timothy 1-7 says this, for God has not given us a spirit of fearfulness. So that type of fear is not from God. It is not from God, but one of power, love, and sound judgment. So here's a couple of tips on how to overcome fear. For number one, you got to believe. You have to believe. You have to have faith. Faith is the antidote to fear. Faith will conquer fear. It is easy to praise God when things are great. When things are great, it's awesome. It's a lot harder when things don't look so good. It's a lot harder to stand up and thank him for anything that you have. When cancer hits, when you get hurt, anything, it's hard to praise him. It's hard to have faith that things are going to work out just exactly the way he wants. You do have to accept that the fact that things will happen. It's how we respond to those things. It's how we respond to those things. The closer we get to God and stronger our faith gets, the devil will attack. I have to understand that there is a spiritual battle out there. Okay? If you're not living by Christ and you're not living for Christ, the devil already has you. But the harder that you push to do right, the devil is going to go after you. Because it's a battle. It's constantly a battle. You know, when I used to, back then when I was little, I kept hearing, become a Christian and, life is better, life is better. Whenever you become a Christian, that life gets a little tougher because the devil attacks. The devil attacks. Be ready for it. Satan will also try to get us to focus on certain issues. You ever have something happen to you and then it's the only thing that you talk about constantly, and you focus on the issue, and then what do most of us do? Get on Facebook and what? Let everybody know about it on how wrong they were done. The devil tries to get us focused on one issue. And this is the question too, is have you prayed about the issue as much as you talked about it? And I'll say that again. Have you prayed about the issue as much as you talked about it? We have to have faith, and faith starts with the unseen. And I'm going to do a little demonstration here too. This is well, let me just ask this. What do y'all see here? What do y'all see? A black dot, right? Y'all see a black dot. And this is what you've seen. How many of y'all see a paper? The paper is bigger than the black dot. But as humans, what do? We try to look at the little thing that the devil threw in there. And sometimes we forget about the big God. You see, the paper is bigger than the dot, but yet y'all say it's a black dot. Sometimes we look at the issue, but yet we forget there's a big God. You have to know about the unseen. You have to realize that. Satan's tactic is to try to get you to focus on the broken things that you have. He tries to get you to focus on what's wrong with your marriage. He tries to get you to focus on what you're trying to fix. He tries to direct your attention to something very simple here, because if he can get your focus here, then you can't see the big part of the picture. You got to give the battle to God. There are many, many people that try to fight things ourselves. And the best way I can describe this too is about our finances. How many of you have said, if I just start making more money, everything will be better? When Teresa and I first got married, we must have been making about $300 a week combined. And that's what I told myself. And we make way more than that now, and I still tell myself, if I just make more money, everything would be better. You realize nothing's going to get better until you what? You're obedient with your finances. But yet we try to take the things into our own hands. We try to fight the battle ourselves. 2 Kings 6:16 says this, Elisha said, "Don't be afraid, for those who are with us outnumber those who are with them." Then Elisha prayed, "Lord, please open his eyes and let him see." So the Lord opened the servant's eyes. He looked and saw the mountains was covered with the horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. Have you actually opened your eyes and actually seen God's army ready to fight on your behalf? Do you realize that God will never forsake you or leave you? And sometimes we need reminding of that. There are times I look at my bank account and I was like, oh, Jesus, take the wheel. We've probably all been there. But you have to know the word, do the word, and also give the battle to him. Quit trying to fight the battle. Quit trying to fight our battles. Keep your focus on God. Keep your focus on God. Stop making determinations based on your current circumstances and start overcoming fear with faith. A lot of us will look at our current circumstance and then make decisions based on that. Especially if you're a control freak like me. I have to have everything in line. And the youth know that about me, and they make fun of me about it. But I have to. The unseen is more important than what is seen. Do you understand? The Red Sea was the illusion. The reality was a dry ground where they passed through it. The walls of Jericho was the illusion. The collapse of the walls were their reality. Goliath was a illusion. David was a reality. The cross was the illusion. The resurrection was reality. It pleases God when through perseverance we have learned to trust him. Even though they could not see the answers to their prayers coming, it pleases God, and he's preparing something special, very special for them. So throughout fear, you have to stay focused on Christ. Stay focused on God. Stop being fearful and start living the life that God designed you for. This is the part 2 that you have to understand, that the fact that God is in control and we are not. In order to have true faith and strong faith, we have to let it go, not being in control. You know, some of you know, some of you don't know. Of course, I suffered a ruptured aneurysm. You know, it ruptured, busted. And that was one time in my life. First of all, I didn't remember the 2 weeks because I was in the ICU. They went to the ER in Round Rock, and then Round Rock, they rushed me down to Seton, Brain, and Spine, where they said, oh, you have an aneurysm. And I didn't even know what that was. And then much less, not only an aneurysm, but it was a ruptured aneurysm. I should not be here. Should not be here. With this being laid in the hospital, and there's one thing I remember is, and this was in Austin, I was like, you know, don't take me to surgery until I see my mama. And somehow, some way, she got there pretty quick from Dimmitt. She got there. And she was there, and I was holding her hand, and then, of course, she comes in. The nurse says, I'm going to let you down easy, and then gave me a shot, and I felt warmth. And the next thing, I'm waking up, and my mom's trying to get me water, and I was fighting with her. I can't drink anything. I'm going to surgery. It's like, you're already out of surgery. No, I'm not. And I was fighting with her. But for the next 2 weeks, I didn't know what day it was. I didn't know if it was day or night. I didn't know where my kids were. I think Bella was just born. I couldn't look at our finances. I had no clue what to do. Nothing made sense to me. And then I had to learn how to re-walk. I couldn't even walk. And I still remember that too. You know, I'm stubborn. I'm a male. You know, it's like, we're going to start therapy. And I was like, I don't need therapy. No, we're going to teach you how to walk. So they were like, move your legs, like slow down. I was like, let's just do this so y'all can leave. And they're like, okay, step up. We're going to help you step up. And I was like, you know, and then I fell. And they caught me. And then he looks at me, now will you listen? I couldn't even use my legs anymore. But with this too is that not being in control is scary. Not being in control is scary, especially when I started getting the bills in. You know, they pay you got to pay for the room, you got to pay for the ambulance, you got to pay for the x-ray techs, you got to pay for the surgeon and the surgeon's assistant, and then you got to pay for Round Rock. You know, I mean, there was about $350,000 worth. $350,000 worth. I couldn't see anything. My vision got blurry again. And then I just kept putting the bills aside for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I was like, okay, we got to start doing something. And then, of course, someone told me, if you just pay $5 a month, they can't do nothing to you. Have you heard that? I was like, yeah, but there's a lot. So I started getting, I was like, all right, start calling them. So I called one. I called the big one, which was Seton, Brain and Spine. That was about $175,000. I was like, yes, I have an account number here. I just need to try to set up some payment plans. Oh, it's been paid for you. I was like, really? Like who? Where? How? Oh, there's an organization that took care of it. I'll call the next one. It's been taken care of. Call the next one. It's been taken care of. $350,000. God took care of. God took care of. And even back then, I didn't understand. But I know my purpose. And it took me losing control to actually understand that. It took me to a very uncomfortable place. Because I know this is where God wants me now. This is where God wants me. Nothing catches God off guard. Nothing. You have to push through fear. You have to push through fear. And this is part 2, is that the only way you can please God, there's only one way you can please God, is through faith. Hebrews 11:6 says this, and without faith it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. This is something I want you to understand too. You can cry all that you want. You can complain all that you want. You can talk about it all that you want. But until you have faith, God's going to take care of it. But part of having faith is you're going to have to lose control. You're going to have to let it go. That's going to be the difference. And as the worship band comes up here, I want you to understand too is that many times in the Bible, you hear your faith has healed you. Your faith has healed you. Or Jesus will ask the question, do you believe? Do you believe? And that's the same question that we're asking tonight. It's the same question that we're asking tonight. Nobody is perfect in this building. Nobody is. Everybody is dealing with something. It's up to you to overcome the fear, step out in faith, and give it to God. Some of you have been trying to fight a battle that's not yours. Quit fighting that battle and let God fight the battle.